Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Literally Me, the Ryan Gosling Rewatch podcast. I am your host, Dean's Beans. As always, I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Fluffy Duffy. Hello.
Man, did your name catch you by surprise for a moment there? Did you forget who you were?
I'm very tired. What happened was this has already gone off the rails. Is that I was going to give myself a fake middle name because I thought it'd be funny if I was like Dean James Beans. The first middle name I thought of was Elizabeth. I wanted to introduce myself as Dean's Elizabeth Beans, and I had to stop myself. And then I was thinking, I'm like, what on earth? Like, doesn't make any sense. And then
That would actually would have been, I would have laughed really hard at that though, and I understand why you had that moment of pause.
I don't know because I feel I never like I always say something stupid in the intros,
You always, in the intro. Yeah.
and if you've been listening to the two of us for a while, you'll know that I do not. You'll be able to tell that I don't plan this.
What?
I don't plan. Sometimes I come up with silly little ideas of what I'll say, and they're the really good ones.
They're the really good ones? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the ones
Yeah,
that
those they are the
really,
good
the
ones.
ones that you remember. All the dud bits
Uh-huh.
also of them. Anyway, this is episode 4 of our new podcast where we go through every single Ryan Gosling film and we're just chatting the shit out of it. Okay, this week
Continue. Continue.
you tell I'm tired.
Okay, well, are you Dean's Elizabeth Beans or are you tired?
That's a good joke. That's a good joke.
I'm here all day.
Yeah, we're here talking about The Slaughter Rule, which is Ryan Gosling's fourth film. Should we just get into this?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have a plot synopsis ahead of you? Or are we
So I was going to
doing
ask you, Harlan, not just for
okay.
the sake of the listeners, but also for my sake, can you please try and explain to me the plot of this film?
I can try
Yeah.
for sure.
Hmm.
So Ryan Gosling plays the character of Roy Chutney,
Great name.
and he's a football player. But then when the JV, do you guys have junior varsity?
What?
Like, do you know what junior varsity is, JV?
No. I know we have varsity. I don't know what the.
So JV is like the technical term is junior varsity.
Mhm.
So it's like the second not as good team.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But that team, for whatever reason, the school cuts the JV team. So some of the JV players go to play in the varsity team, but others have to, they're just out of the football team.
Yeah.
Um, so Roy Chutney is one of these players, and then this weird journalism guy named Gid goes around and hires him for a six-man team, which is a smaller football team than normal. You may have been confused by that,
I
Dean.
did. I got that from context. That's one of the few things I did figure out.
Um, and but then like this Gid guy, he's kind of weird. And also Roy Chutney's dad dies right before he gets cut from the film. Before he gets cut from the team.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
my
The
bad.
dad, the dad had to die because he was actually cut from the film.
Yeah, yeah. There is some behind the scenes drama with the dad, so. And then yeah, it's just a story about this kid who lost his dad and his new slightly perverted football coach.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I'll get into my thoughts in this film actually because
Yeah,
I
I have
want to.
thoughts about this film as well.
Yeah. So this film was directed by a pair of identical twins named Alex and Andrew Smith. This is the first film they did together. They wrote and directed it, and then they then went on to write, direct, and produce two other films, which I have never heard of. Um,
What are they? Do you know?
I can,
Would I heard of them?
I'll
Would I
bring up
have?
their names quickly now. Walking Out
Nope.
is one, and the other is if Andrew Smith IMDb loads. It's Walking Out um, and Winter in Blood.
Nope. Never heard of either of those. When were they released?
So
Ish.
2017 and 2013.
Okay.
They took a
Interesting.
9 year break. Sorry, 11-year break after this film. And I looked at the cast as well, and I didn't know anyone in the cast in either of these films. I'm going to be completely honest, okay? Well, this will give you a sneak peek into my opinion on this film. It's got Lily Gladstone is in one of these films.
Oh, interesting.
Huh. Um, while watching this film, I but to entertain myself, I kept trying to look up facts about this film and just like information about it. But
Uh-huh.
because no one watched this film, there is no information about it anywhere. So I was really struggling.
Yeah, nobody watched this film, did they?
No, so this is right apart from his first film, which wasn't didn't really have a box office release. This is his lowest performing film in the box office ever, with a measly $13,400, which to me,
Yeah. Well, if you look up on IMDb, it says 13,411. So they counted every single ticket.
yeah, to me, that really sound like I think if a film makes 13,000, you could say, oh, that is just the family and friends of the cast and crew. That could make up $13,411.
Because what, 13,400, let's say tickets are,
I mean, I don't know what they were like in 2002, to be fair.
let's say five.
Yeah.
That's less than 3,000 people saw this movie.
Yeah. And if a crew of 200, 300 people worked on the film.
And
Anyway,
let's also say, how many seats does a theater fill? 25-ish?
sure, smaller theaters would be,
100 theaters.
yeah. Which is also amazing when this film had a budget of 500,000.
Yeah.
So
Which it's kind of shocking to read that because this movie looks like it was made on less.
it doesn't look like it was made on like heaps less. Like The Believer was made on 1.5 million, and like,
That's true.
and I
That is true.
there's a huge
Maybe
The Believer was his previous film. I think five when at the end of the day, $500,000 is like almost nothing to make a film. Because I was thinking about like how many people, how many members of crew and cast do you have to pay a wage a day? And if you're paying them minimum wage, in about a month, you'd get to 500,000.
yeah, it's true.
Like it's not a lot of money to make a film, but by far, this is his film which has failed the most at the box office by percentage of
Are you
budget.
talking about the director or the Ryan
Well,
Gosling?
Ryan Gosling. I didn't look into the directors, but I would
Okay.
imagine a similar thing.
However, have you looked up the Rotten Tomatoes score of this movie?
Yes, so it's 74% with critics.
That I found really interesting.
Yeah, especially, and then 43% with audiences. This is what I mean. I got all the information while watching this film. I was really, you know,
So 74% Rotten Tomatoes score.
yeah.
You don't have to say your solid opinion on the movie because we'll get in that about like 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
But do you agree with that ranking?
No.
Me either.
The thing is with Rotten Tomatoes though that could be 74%, 6 out of 10, and then
That's true. And
six.
also it only has 31 reviews. This is not a,
Yeah. If
family and
all those
friends and
reviews
there's
if
31
all
people.
those reviews were like 6 out of 10s, I don't think I would disagree.
Yeah.
Like I'm like sure, whatever. So this film was released when Gosling was 21. It was released in 2002 on the 11th of January, the year both of us were born.
Hmm?
hmm
I wasn't born in 2003.
Two came out 2002.
Oh, sorry. I have it movie. It says 2003
Oh, does it? Maybe.
on Rotten Tomatoes. Release
Yeah.
January 8, 2000. Also, it's weird on Amazon Prime. It says this movie came out in 2023, which I know for a fact is wrong.
Let me double check. Uh, I got the release date off Wikipedia, which isn't known for being super. Okay, here we go. So January 11th, 2002, it had its first premiere at Sundance, which is a film festival. And then on January 8th, 2003, it had its theatrical release.
Okay. Well, I think we should. I mean, technically, I think we should be counting the theatrical release.
Yeah. So then, the first screening was before both of us were born, and the theatrical release was after both of us were born.
Yes.
So
Um, I have my 2003 movie, I think.
I know what your 2002 film is. We can do both. I mean, we will be doing both because there are 2002 and 2003 films still to talk about.
Yeah, I got 2002 right off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'd have to. I'm gonna look for 2003. Your 2002. Do you mind if I
My
spoil?
2002. You want to say it?
Yeah, yours is Spider Man,
Yeah.
and I
Oh, I
think
know what your 2003 is.
I
I
think
don't
I'm
even. You don't need to look it up. I know what your 2003 is.
okay. So I would agree. My 2002. Sorry, we're talking about our favorite films from the year these films were released. Every time, my favorite
Mhm.
2002 film, I would agree. I would probably say Spider Man. What's my
Okay.
2003?
Well, my 2003 is a very close tie
Okay,
between Bruce Almighty,
good film.
love that movie,
Hmm.
tied with your number one movie from that year,
Yeah.
The Cat in the Hat.
Oh, phenomenal film.
Would you
Phenomenal.
agree with me on that one?
Let me have a look at what came out in 2003.
I don't appreciate the doubt in your voice. I
I
mean, sure, technically, Lord of the Rings: Return of the
oh,
King came out that
okay.
year too, but
Return of the King. It is in my letterbox top four, but the Cat in the
so
Hat
is Cat in the Hat.
the Cat in the Hat is undoubtedly better. Do you know, I was looking at my letterbox stats today. I think it was while I was watching this film, which just tells you another bit of information about my opinion on this film. It was like, oh, most watched films of 2024, and it was The Fall Guy and Cat and Hat. And they were the only two films under that section because they're the only two films this year I've watched more than once.
That's all. You saw Fall Guy more than once. I wish I should. I would. I am so sad that movie bombed.
Yeah, me too. I went to the cinema on Monday to watch it, which so yeah,
Nice.
a week ago. Um, just because I was like, I want to go to cinema, and I was like, that film was good, and I did really enjoy it. I had a nap in the middle, I'll be honest, but I really enjoyed it.
It happens.
I'm like, it was a voluntary nap. I'm happy to have a nap the second time I watch a film.
All right, so let's get into general thoughts on the film.
Yeah.
I thought this movie didn't really hit the mark for what it was trying to go for.
Hmm.
I think the movie plays with this coach being like low key kind of perverted,
Yes.
and it's like, is he or isn't he? And it kind of the movie leans you towards he just really likes having a team and being a part of something. But then he does get a little perverted.
I
I'm gonna there's a trigger warning
yeah.
in the film for harassment. But he's not a I know there's some trauma and there's some layers, but I just think the moment he crosses that line, he's an irredeemable character
He
in
was
my eyes.
like, I was watching this film and I was like, in my mind, I was like, I was trying to figure out if this film was like being intentional with the fact that this football coach is literally grooming Ryan Gosling, or whether it was like, just like a 2002 thing. And I get to the end of the film and I'm like, oh no, that's just what this film's like. Because he was like, in my opinion, he was being groomed.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Like it was uncomfortable at times. And then I couldn't, like, from that point on, I could not tell what the film was trying to do. Like, the reason I said, "Oh, can you please try and give me a plot synopsis of this film for my sake," was you could explain to me what was going on. I think part of the issue was for me that about every other line in this film, I think was just some American thing I didn't understand.
Maybe there is
I was going to say,
so
unless you didn't understand what was going on in this film either, then it was just
I once that happened. But there's a point in the movie where the line is crossed
yeah,
with the Ryan Gosling and Gid character. And after that point, your perspective on the entire movie changes and it's trying to tell a whole different thing. But then there's this whole arc with a girlfriend,
yeah.
which isn't even connected to Gid at all.
And like, yeah. Yeah.
And then there's the football, and I feel like they forget that they're a part of a football team halfway through the. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not the point of the film, the football team.
Hmm.
And then also there's this whole relationship with his friends, and then with his mom. It feels super scatterbrained, and you really don't know where the movie is going.
Yeah, and like
And it
by
doesn't
the
really
end of
say
the
anything by the
film,
end.
you're like, oh yeah, this film's about his relationship with his dad. I forgot about that. Like, there's so much stuff
Exactly.
going on that I was struggling to keep up with. Like, it wasn't that I was struggling to keep up with what was happening. I was like, it was clear what was happening, but this film was cutting between like these different ideas so quickly. I was so confused about what like these characters' opinions and relationships are with each other, and not in a good way, you know.
Hmm.
Like, I was watching the scene, I'm like, wait, do these guys still like each other after that last scene, or why is he suddenly annoyed with him, or blah blah blah.
And then the way the movie ends, I
Yeah.
also did not like.
Hmm.
Because Ryan Gosling's character just like forgives him
Yeah.
and they're friends again, even though they definitely shouldn't be.
Hmm.
It was pretty, I would say, poorly f- filmed or choreographed, their last little weird harassment encounter. But
Yeah.
you don't really see what happens, but you can tell something weird is going on in
Mm.
front of everybody. You know what I mean? You know what
Yeah,
scene
yeah,
I'm talking about? Like their
yeah.
last,
I get.
and I don't know.
Wasn't pleasant. So my question is,
Hmm.
was do you think this was like a 2002 thing, where it's the kind of thing where, oh, in films, like, characters are a lot more sexist and blah blah blah, because that's what the times were like or whatever? Or do you think this film just did a very bad job at itself?
Well, I do think there are some like 2002 homophobia moments in here
Yes, I would agree with that. Yeah.
where it's just like, do you like dudes?
Yeah.
What's wrong with there's things like that where I'm like, that's the time. But then but like, then there are moments with like, like the coach had another person that he was essentially grooming, and that he died, and like, there's some things where it's like, this isn't 2002
I
weird.
think
This
I
is
think
just
you're right.
weird.
It's a mixture. I think that's a
Yeah.
good, yeah. That some bits I'm like, yeah. I just overall, we'll get to more specific thoughts, but what did you think of the gods in this?
I think he definitely delivers like the most solid performance
Yeah.
out of the rest of the cast. Um, but even with the films we've seen him in so far, I think we've seen him better.
Yeah, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with his performance. I think it is just a really weak script. And
Yeah.
he shows the emotion well, and I think he is charming um at times in this film. I just think overall you do just find his character unlikable just because of this relationship with the guy that's grooming him.
The pacing of this film.
Yeah.
How bored did you find yourself?
What have you heard how many times I've mentioned I was on my phone looking?
I like was watching this movie for so long.
It's an hour 50 minutes, but it's also 4 hours long at the same time. It's really.
And I took out the remote to be like, you know what? I'm checking the timestamp. And it wasn't even 40 minutes. And I was like, oh my God. I was so worried you would have I didn't think you'd like this movie, but if you when I looked at the Rotten Tomato score, I was like, maybe I'm missing something so
Maybe.
gargantuan.
Yeah. No, no.
But I'm glad we kind of agree on this movie.
Yeah. Um, he's like I said, Gosling. He's not bad. He's just been dealt a bad hand, and like, when you're this early on in your career,
Exactly. I think that's
you're gonna do it. If like he did this film now, I'd be like, that is like a colossal misstep and blah blah blah. But I'm sure in 2002, when he made this film, he was younger than we are now. If I mean,
mhm.
if you had starred in this film, I'd be like, wow, that's really impressive from Harlan.
Yeah, exactly. But
Um, but
that's growing pains
yeah,
of
so you're taking any opportunity you get, and I don't hold that against him. But it still doesn't make any better. The one thing I do want to say is that the best thing about this film is how good his character's name is.
What was it again? Chutney?
Roy Chutney.
Roy Chutney. That's a football player's name if I've ever heard one.
I don't know what it was about it, but Roy Chutney really did it. I mean, not the. Okay, I've said too much. Okay. What did you think of the rest of the cast here?
The actor of Gid, the weird football coach.
Yeah.
I think he did fine.
I think he did a good job at being like this mentally unwell um creep of a man.
Yeah. But also at times I do think the script really wants you to like him.
Honestly, it's so difficult for me to say whether he did any good or not because he just I don't know what the film was trying to do with him. Like I don't know. I
Mm-mm.
can't tell you for sure the angle. I mean, I know the film was trying to make him seem like a redeeming character, but like I can't
Maybe
tell what the film was going for.
a part of it might like this if the movie does not feel like it has this tone.
Hmm.
However, it might like this script if if the director came to me and he was like if they came to me and they were like this is a tragedy,
Yeah.
I'd be like that makes more sense.
Hmm.
But it does not feel that way.
No, they weren't going for that.
Um and if it would like I do think it would be an interesting perspective if the whole purpose of this was that you're seeing this all from Roy Chutney's point of view, and he's
Uh-huh.
struggling with this relationship because he knows he's a bad man, but in the absence of his father, he has redeeming qualities, which is why at times the script makes you try to like him. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I do not think the script is that um layered. I think it's just lazily written, and they didn't know what they were going for.
It's funny because like the first scene in this entire film is him finding out that his dad has killed himself, and like there's such a through line in this film of him keep mentioning, "Oh, my dad, he never paid attention to me," or "My dad used to say this to me," or "My dad did this," and every single time they mentioned his dad, I was like, "Oh yeah, his dad's dead," and it's like
Yeah,
I was only aware of what was going on in this film when people in the film were telling me.
yeah.
Um, would you have noticed Amy Adams was in this film if we hadn't have talked about it beforehand?
I would have because she in the early 2000s she kind of appears
Yeah.
in random movies.
Mhm.
So I probably would have been like, oh, look, it's another one of those. But when you told me, I thought she was gonna be like a main character. So when
Oh
I saw
no,
it for the
but
first
she's like
time,
fourth, like on like Letterboxd, she's like fourth listed in the film, and I don't know if that's a thing because she's become famous since this film or
has to be.
interesting. Here's an interesting fact for you. This is Amy Adams' fourth film, which is
Wow.
also Ryan Gosling's fourth film. So they,
Yeah.
they share that together, and they've never been. I think put them in a film together again because I think that's a good pairing. I love Amy Adams is one of my favorite actresses. I think she's great, and I think that's it's an interesting pairing nowadays when you look at the kind of things they're both in.
Yeah, I agree. But she has no role in this film.
No, she is. I like yeah. Her
Blink
job
and you'll miss it, literally.
her job in this film is to be the girlfriend to the jock who's like no don't fight him and then that's it.
So there's also a weird subplot with the mom.
I think subplot is incredibly generous, but do you want to explain
Well,
what?
they treat it like a subplot because by the end she's crying naked in her bedroom,
Please explain to me what was.
which is so tragic.
So yeah, obviously, as we've said, the dad's killed himself, and the mum is struggling with this, and then I don't even know what they were going for in the scene she's in. So she's in a scene where him and his friend go around for dinner and they're just joking around. And she's like, "Oh, I'm a little bit sad." And then he spends the night in jail and he phones up and she's like, "Come home now." And then hangs up on the phone without knowing he was ever in jail and presumably never found out. And then the next day or whatever, he goes home and be like, "Oh, mom, you all right?" And he opens the door and she's just lying on her bed, completely in the nude, just like disassociated and sobbing. And it's like, it's upsetting and it's uncomfortable and it's weird because what is going on with this character has not been a part of this film at all.
It, right. We have no context for it at all.
Yeah.
And, I do think in a real life scenario of a husband killing her, was it the mom that got divorced from the dad, or was it the stepmom? I don't,
I don't know.
but like you lose somebody that's so significant in your life, that can happen,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't make sense in the story.
Yeah.
'Cause it,
And
it's,
like it could have worked if you were if like they put it a bit earlier in the film and they were like, "Oh, seeing his mum broken like this is what's driving him to do this and this," you know. If they used it as a driving force for his character, like him seeing how torn up his mum is, then I think that would be interesting and that would work. But it's at the end of the film and it doesn't affect anything else, and the film treats like it doesn't happen afterwards.
yeah. And I think, um, if we continue on, if we go to talk about the plot of this movie, which we're kind of already
We're already
discussing,
doing that. Yeah.
it makes no sense. Like it starts off pretty strong, I would say.
Yeah.
You get the idea, but it goes so slow, but at the same time, so many things are happening,
Uh-huh.
but you just don't care about any of them.
Yeah.
Um, it,
I know these problems go hand in hand and it's impossible, like a film in this, to separate them. But what do you think is worse in this film? The plot or the characters?
what I will say the plot.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say the plot is because you have the six-man football team going on
Yeah.
against the high school football team.
Yeah.
You have the mom, you have the dad, you have the coach, you have the girlfriend.
It's true. You have elements there.
And if they were to scrap couple and focus more on it, told it would have just bettered the plot.
Yeah, I think you're right. There are interesting concepts within these characters, like Ryan Gosling trying to get over the death of his dad. Whatever's going on with this football coach, he's got a best friend we haven't mentioned yet, who's going through a whole thing of his own. You've got the mum, you've got the girlfriend. I think there's interesting concepts in all of these um, characters, but they're given no time to explore a single one of them.
Right.
An incredibly 10-hour long movie.
And would you say there's an antagonist in this movie?
Oh, no.
No.
Like from my viewing, from my personal viewpoint, it's the coach, but that's not what the film's going for.
No. Like I feel like it's if I had to choose one, I would choose a coach, but the film doesn't treat him like an antagonist.
No, no.
He's a supporting lead,
And
really.
like, he gets in a fight with a guy from school, and I just like I was it's a real struggle to talk about this film because it's a real struggle to make myself care about any of it. What
Yeah.
I do like about this film, what I think works mostly, is the romance subplot. And I think if that was the film, I think it would be pretty solid. So what happens is he meets this girl at his dad's funeral, and then he meets her again at a bar, and then they start hooking up, and he's not sure if they're dating. And then she gets annoyed because like he's treating sex as just a casual thing, and she's wanting something a bit deeper. And she's wanting someone more mature. So then she moves away. And like when he's in prison, he's phoning her, trying to get in contact, and she's ignoring him. And then they And then she leaves the town and they meet at the bus stop just as she's leaving. And I think if that was the entire film, like, obviously you add a lot more to that. But if that was the focus of the
Right.
film, I think it would be pretty. I think it would be like fine. I think it would be pretty good because a lot of the stuff works for me. Um, Harlan has swallowed something. Um,
I choked up my spit.
okay. Um, like I think there's interesting parts to that. He's still coughing. Uh, um, but
Can you hear
overall,
me?
yeah.
Excellent. Cool. Continue.
Overall, I just think they missed them. That like yeah, they didn't focus on this stuff enough, and parts of it were a bit jarring.
Yeah. And I think a part of that, if we're to keep moving forward, is the direction.
Uh huh.
No, that's I do think a large part of this is the directors wanted to get in the head of this character, and they're like, well, this has to be happening, and then this, and then this, and then this. And if this was like a real life story, and it might be based on a real life, I don't know if it is or not,
I don't think it is.
there would be all these things happening,
Yeah.
but also you have 24 hours in a day. In a movie, you have about like 30 minutes. And so I just think they needed to cut things to tell a focused story, and that's not what happened. And I think a large part of that is due to the direction.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's some real abrupt cuts from scene to scene in this film, and I'm not sure. I can't put my finger on it in why it feels jarring when you're jumping from one place to the other and one thing to another.
Well, one thing is that they rarely have establishing shots.
Yeah,
It goes from one thing to the other. Like he's in a ranch all of a sudden, and you don't know where he is.
that's a good point. I can't remember what's happening before, but there's one bit I found really jarring where he's just like playing football or he's talking to a friend or whatever, and then it just without warning just cuts to him having sex with his girlfriend, and I'm like,
Yeah,
whoa! If you're watching that with your parents, that you don't have much warning to
jump scare.
but like and also like I think that's the first time you see them actually having sex and like you've seen them kiss but like as a viewer you don't know exactly what their relationship is because the film never tells you so it's a bit jarring because you're like oh okay like I didn't
Yeah,
even yeah
I agree.
um they love a crossfade in this film as well like there's a lot of crossfade
I hate me an unnecessary crossfade.
like there's I think there's one scene and I think it's like when they're walking along him and his best friend are walking along the countryside and they did like three in a row and I didn't hate it then I was like these look pretty cool because they're kind of you know cutting in closer for the conversation and then going away so you could see the landscape and they were doing it in an interesting way where they like appeared on the landscape and then but then by that point I noticed them and I'm like okay that's interesting and then they kept doing it every single chance they got then by then I was definitively fed
Yep.
up. And do you know what else really annoyed me about this movie?
What?
The score.
The score?
It was just like the little banjo plucking constantly in the background.
Yeah, it even in the beginning of the film,
Oh,
it
it annoyed
sets
me.
up the mood,
Yeah, in the
and it
first scene
doesn't
where I
work.
was like, I'm not gonna like this. It
No.
reminds me of someone distinctly British and very unaware of these things. It reminds me of like an SNL sketch of them doing like some southern redneck sketch and that's just playing in the background the entire time and I feel like if I watched that sketch by the end of the sketch I'd be very annoyed with that music let alone a 16-hour movie like this one.
Well, you know, some good banjo music. I'm not gonna knock that. You know what I mean? But it doesn't work in this movie.
It does come on I don't know what it is because I think it feels like the film's trying too hard to be like earnest and like
Yeah.
artsy and I'm just like ugh. Yeah.
So every time we do one of these, we have
Yeah.
a wild card thing to
Mm-hmm.
talk about.
Yeah.
And it's a part of like we we choose a wild card based on the genre of the movie or the themes of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And just like Remember the Titans, we went with sports thoughts because at the end of the
Oh,
day,
yeah, I do remember
this
this one.
is a football movie.
Oh, is it? I could not tell. Okay, what did you think of the football?
Bad.
They forget it's a football film halfway through.
They forget it's a football film, and when it's a football film, it's not a good football film.
From my point of view, as a British person who has zero knowledge about American football, something like Remember the Titans did a very good job of showing this sport in a way that wasn't confusing, in a way that I wasn't like, what on earth is going on? And like I understood what was going on in those clips and in the games and everything. I feel like this film made me more confused about what American football is and what was going on. Like somehow I was just, I don't know, it just all washed over me, and I kind of just tuned it out whenever those scenes were playing.
No, yeah, and I think I do think, to be fair, a part of that is budget.
Yeah,
Like these things are not like football sequences are hard because you need to
and
keep
yeah,
the actors safe.
Remember the Titans had 60 times the budget this film did.
Right. But with that said, I think it's interesting having you talk about this because it's a different perspective than what I would. But there's no story told through the football.
That's very
You know
like
what I mean?
you're right. There's a bit at the end where his friend gets injured, but that's like, that's a shot. That's nothing beyond a single shot. And other than that, they go to a game, they lose, and then he's like, "Hey, you should try harder next time." And then they win the next game, and then he's like, "Yeah, you won the game." And then his friend breaks his neck, and he's like, "Oh, he broke his neck. Let's go play some football." No, let's not play some football. Okay, bye.
Right. Because during like Remember the Titans, you have climactic moments where on the football field you see a character think something and they complete a pass or they make a
And
touch.
you
None
you
of
see,
that happens.
you see like the characters grow on the pitch because the white kids are playing with the black kids, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But not here.
So the wild card sports thoughts, our thoughts on the sports on this film is bad
Do you think this film is more bad or bland?
compared to.
Just in general, like, do you think this film is a bad film, or do you think it's just bland?
I'd say it's bland borders on bad.
Yeah, because I feel like in however many weeks when we're talking about these films, I'm not going to remember a single thing about this.
No.
You're gonna be like, "Hey, the slaughter one." I'm like, "Oh, is that the one where he got groomed or something?"
However, I do like I know I shouldn't be comparing this to films we have not seen during this rewatch
Yeah,
podcast. However, I have seen a solid chunk of Ryan Gosling movies, and this is definitely one of the worst ones.
yeah. I mean, I'm glad this one got the lowest at the box office because I assume the other ones are better. Although this is not, I believe, yeah, this isn't the lowest IMDb.
No, I think I have seen the lowest.
The lowest is All Good Things.
Oh no, I haven't.
And
Never mind
then
then.
second is Only God Forgives.
No,
This
I haven't seen that one.
this is kind of well, it's difficult because um uh All Good Things got a 35 and a 37%. Only God Forgives got a 41 and a 37. Lost River, which is the film he directed, got 30 and a 38. Uh, Song to Song got 43 and 37. This film did better than those films if you're counting the critic score alongside the audience score.
Okay.
I
Okay.
would imagine this is one of those films where they're like, yeah, like 31 critics were sitting in that audience at Sundance, and they were like, yeah,
Yeah.
that film's fine.
Yeah. I don't think any critic has gone back to this film and tried to rate it.
No, no.
But on that note,
Mm-hmm.
if you were a critic and you had to go back to this movie to rate it, what would you give it out of 10?
I'm thinking like a 3 or a 4, maybe. I'm kind of
I
leaning.
was caught in that land too.
I don't think it's as bad as a 3 because despite the whole thing of I'm like, oh, they're trying, like, it to me it feels like this kid's being groomed, but the film is showing it in a way where he's hanging out with this coach. Like, apart from that element, I mean, yeah, I nothing in this film I found like upsetting or annoying. Like, this film didn't, like, for a film to be like a 1 or a 2/3, I think it has to anger me, and I just found this film incredibly dull.
Yeah, I feel pretty confident giving this a 3.5.
3. You're going to go 3.5. I don't want to give this film. Should I go 3.5? Yeah, yeah. I was just trying to figure out what I'm going to give it on Letterboxd. So I was doing the math
Mm,
in my head. I think it's going to have to be a 1.5 stars.
wow, that's low.
Yeah.
I wonder what it
They,
has on Letterboxd. Do you know?
it's like a 2 point something. No one I know on Letterboxd has watched this film apart from you now.
Water. Yeah, it has a 2.8.
There you go. What would you rate the gods in this film? Just for some context, I'll give you our previous scores.
Okay.
Fall Guy, 8.5. Remember the Titans, 5. The Believer, 8.
I think I'd give him like a 6.5.
I was going to say 6.
Be-
I'm trying to think. He does yodel. I liked it when he yodeled.
he does yodel.
This is like Remember the Titans. This is the second film in his filmography where he's got such a weird obsession with country music.
Well, I think it's just when you play a football player, you
Yeah,
just
yeah, but it's weird that the two football players both like that's his only character trait in Remember the Titans. Is
that's true. It is.
country music. It's just a bit of a weird. Should we go 6.5?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, cool. Um, do you think this guy was literally you?
No,
Not even a little bit.
no.
No, that's 3 no's in a row. Maybe next week when we watch Murder by Numbers, where I'm pretty sure Ryan Gosling plays a murderer, we will change our minds.
Wait, is this Murder by Numbers?
Yeah,
I think I really want to see this. Um.
stars Sandra Bullock.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a When I try to send my friends Ryan Gosling gifts, there's
Mm-hmm.
one from this movie that I'm like, I haven't even seen that movie.
Yeah, and I like Sandra Bullock, so I guess we'll see.
I do like Sandra Bullock.
She's no Amy Adams, but I like her. Overall, I would recommend this film the least out of the films we've watched so far.
For sure.
Okay, here's a question.
Yes.
If someone went, I really want to watch a Ryan Gosling film about football, what would you recommend?
I would still give the Remember the Titans.
Really, despite the fact he's in it for 20 seconds.
Yeah, because Remember the Titans is a solid movie.
It's a
Like, that is
solid
a good
film.
movie.
But if I was like, Harlan, can you recommend me a Ryan Gosling film about American football? And you said Remember the Titans, I would be disappointed. But to be fair, if you said The Slaughter Rule, I would also be disappointed. So touche.
More. Like you'd be more disappointed, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. At least I get to see Ryan Gosling. Does he look like an American football player? Because he's not how I imagine American football players looking. If
Not at
anything,
all.
he looks more like a football player. He looks like a soccer player.
Yeah. Or like a baseball player,
He looks like a baseball player. Yeah, I can see
but
that.
not football.
And he's always, I mean, at least in Remember the Titans, he was a bad uh, football player.
That's true.
And anyway, so next week we will be talking about Murder by Numbers, a Sandra Bullock film, where he murders people. I think I don't know. I only read the IMDb summary. I'm gonna watch it, and Harlan's gonna watch it. Then we're gonna come on here and we're gonna talk the shit out of it.
We're gonna talk the shit out of it.
Like the film's not even gonna know what hit it. It's like this film. This film has just been chilling on the internet, and its search results have gone up by like 400% today. Me and Harlan googling it.
When I type in slaughter or like it doesn't pop up, I have to put in the slaughter rule and then it like
Yeah.
nobody watches this movie.
I know I just googled it, but let me go to google.com and try murder by numbers, because if I type in murder, no, it doesn't help me because it knows I've already googled it. Okay, thank you for listening. If you would like to listen to Murder by if you would like to watch Murder by Numbers before next week, feel free, and then you'll know exactly what we're talking about. But if you don't want to, still listen next week because we do such a comprehensive job at summarizing these films. Anything else to say, Harlan?
Nope. Adios, everybody.
I'm like, okay. I realized when I said it the chance I'd given you, and I regretted it. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.